Family uninvited me on the trip, but they expected me to babysit their kids while they celebrated. My name is Ashley. I'm 32 years old and have spent over a decade working as a manager at Preston and Associates. While my younger sisters, Sarah and Emma, were busy getting married and having kids, I was fully immersed in work, building my career. I'm not complaining, I love what I do, but sometimes I wonder if I missed out on something. No husband, no kids, just me, my office with a city view, and a packed schedule. One Tuesday morning, as I was reviewing some reports, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Without giving it much thought, I answered, still half focused on the quarterly numbers in front of me. "Hi, Ash. Do you have a minute?" she asked in her usual cheerful tone. "Sure, what's up?" I replied, pushing aside a pile of papers, but still somewhat distracted. "So, you know Mom is turning 60 in 2 months, right?" she said, pausing as if she was about to drop some big news. "We're organizing something special and need everyone to contribute." That made me put the report down and raise an eyebrow, even though I knew Sarah couldn't see me. "How much are we talking about?" I asked, already suspecting it wouldn't be a small amount. When she mentioned the figure, I almost spit out my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last vacation, and that had been 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," she quickly added, trying to calm me down, "but it's for Mom, you know?" "It's fine," I said, opening my banking app. "I'll transfer it right now." "Great! Oh, and one more thing," she added casually, as if it weren't important. "Make sure you take a week off work for the celebration. Don't plan anything else, okay?" After that, the weeks flew by with work. Every now and then, I wondered what my sisters were planning to do with all that money, but whenever I asked, they just gave me vague responses. Eventually, I stopped pushing. Saturday came, and we all gathered at my parents' house. The usual family chaos, Dad telling the same old jokes, Mom making sure no one went hungry, and constant chatter overlapping everywhere. It was all normal until Sarah dropped her bombshell. "Well, we've got everything arranged for Mom's birthday," she said, casually moving peas around on her plate. "We're all going to spend a week at Mountain Pine Resort." The table erupted with excitement. Mom was thrilled, Dad was already talking about skiing, and my sisters were planning what activities they'd do. I just sat there trying to process everything. "Why didn't anyone tell me this earlier?" I asked. "I don't even have a ski suit and there's barely any time to get one." Then, silence. The kind of silence that makes your stomach sink. Mom cleared her throat and I immediately knew something was coming. "Sweetheart," she began, using that tone she reserves for favors she knows I can't refuse. "We were hoping you could do us a huge favor and watch the kids while we're there." I had to blink a few times to process what she just said. "You want me to watch the kids?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "All 5 of them?" My brain automatically started listing them. Jason, Emma's toddler, Lucy, Sarah's baby, Michael's twins, and Rachel's son. 5 kids under the age of 7. "You're so good with them," Mom said, as if that explained everything. "They adore you." I looked around the table, searching for any hint that this might be a joke. Nothing, just serious faces. "But that's not fair," I finally said. "I want to celebrate Mom's birthday too." Emma put her fork down with a sigh. "Come on, Ashley, you'd be bored there anyway," she said, exasperated. "Bored?" I repeated incredulously. "Yeah, and you're amazing with the kids. They love you. Let's be honest, you don't need a break from family life like we do." I stayed silent, knowing any argument would be pointless. But deep down, all I could think was how long and exhausting that week was going to be. I felt my chest tighten. What was that supposed to mean? Sarah quickly chimed in, with that condescending tone she had perfected over the years. "What she means is that you don't have a husband or children to need a break from. The rest of us, we really need this trip, you understand, don't you?" The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked back tears. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Silently, I pushed back my chair and stood up. "Ashley?" Mom's voice carried a hint of concern, but not enough to actually stop me. Without saying a word, I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed to the door. No one moved to stop me. No one called after me. The only sound that followed me was Mom's voice drifting from the dining room. "Don't worry, she'll feel a little offended at first, but she'll get over it. She always does." As I walked to my car, their voices faded behind me, already engrossed in a conversation about ski slopes and winter gear. The crisp evening air brushed against my face, clearing my head a little. 10 years of putting everyone else first, of being the responsible one, the reliable one, and this was my reward. The worst part wasn't even the request to babysit. It was the casual way they assumed I'd say yes. The way they had planned this entire trip without me, using my money, my time, my vacation days, without even asking, as though I were nothing more than a resource at their disposal, not a family member who deserved inclusion. That night, I paced around my apartment, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every moment I had dropped everything to help someone else. The memories came flooding back, each one taking on a darker meaning in light of tonight's events. There I was at 16 making dinner while Mom helped Emma with her homework. Me at 18 turning down a spring break trip with friends to watch Sarah while our parents went on a weekend getaway. Me at 21 working 2 jobs in college to help pay for Emma's prom dress. The images kept coming, year after year, sacrifice after sacrifice. Ashley, can you watch Jason for a few hours? Emma's voice echoed in my head. I really need a break. Ashley, could you take the twins for the weekend? Michael's familiar request played on repeat like a broken record. Rachel's overwhelmed with Pete and you're so good with kids. I had always said yes. Always. Even when I had important meetings the next day, even when I was exhausted from my own long work week. I took pride in being the reliable one, the responsible sister, the perfect daughter. I collapsed onto the couch, the cool leather pressing against my skin. The photo albums on the coffee table caught my eye. Family vacations where I was always the one behind the camera, holiday gatherings where I was always in the kitchen while everyone else laughed in the living room. When was the last time someone had asked me what I wanted? It's not like you need a break from family life. Sarah's words echoed in my mind as though my life, my career, my choices were somehow less valid because I wasn't married with children. As though all my sacrifices meant nothing because they didn't fit their definition of what mattered. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I tossed and turned, remembering how I had worked my way through college on a scholarship, determined not to be a financial burden on my parents. How I started my career immediately after graduation, helping to pay for my sister's schooling. All those late nights at the office, climbing the corporate ladder, sending parts of my salary home to help with family expenses. By morning, I had made up my mind. I'm not a confrontational person, never have been. There had to be a way to resolve this peacefully, to make them understand without causing a family rift. So, I did what I had always done when faced with a problem. I tried to fix it. I waited until a reasonable hour on Sunday morning before picking up the phone. Mom answered on the third ring. Hi, Mom, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've been thinking about the resort trip. Actually, I have a solution. I decided to be practical and proposed a solution that seemed logical and reasonable. I'll pay for a professional babysitter to take care of the 5 kids. That way we can all enjoy Mom's birthday celebration together. The silence on the other end of the line stretched uncomfortably, far too long. That won't work, Ashley, Mom finally said, her voice tight. We can't trust some stranger with the kids. They're used to you. I took a deep breath, trying to reason with her. Mom, I want to be part of the celebration too. It's your birthday. I want to be there for you. I can find someone really good, a babysitter with excellent references. But she cut me off before I could finish. You know you're not exactly a social butterfly, she said, her tone sharp and dismissive. You'd probably feel uncomfortable with all the noise and activity anyway. The kids will keep you busy and you enjoy spending time with them. It's what works best for everyone. The sound of her hanging up echoed in my ear before I could say anything more. I sat there, the phone still pressed to my ear, processing her words. She didn't even bother to say goodbye. As I tried to make sense of what had just happened, my phone buzzed again. Sarah's name flashed across the screen. How dare you! She spat before I could even say hello. Mom just told me about your brilliant idea to hire a babysitter. Are you trying to ruin everything? I straightened up, surprised by Sarah's hostile tone. Ruin what? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Her voice grew louder, each word more aggressive than the last. We already have a solution, Ashley. Everything is planned. Everything. And now you're being completely selfish, trying to change all our arrangements at the last minute. Selfish? The accusation hit me like a slap in the face. Me? Selfish? Yes, you are. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited. The resort is booked. The activities are scheduled. And now you're complaining because you can't do this one little thing for the family? My hands started trembling. One little thing? Are you serious? You know what? If you ruin this trip for everyone, if you spoil Mom's birthday celebration, don't bother talking to me again. I mean it, Ashley. The line went dead. I sat there, stunned by my little sister's threat, when the phone buzzed again with incoming messages. This time, it was Emma. Family needs to stick together, her first text read. Another message quickly followed. We all help each other out. Remember when I watered your plants last year while you were at that conference? And another. The kids love you. You're great with them. Why can't you just stop being resentful and think about what's best for the family? I gripped my phone tightly and started typing, my determination growing with every word. A real family doesn't take advantage of each other. A real family respects each other's wishes and includes everyone in their plans. A real family doesn't manipulate or use guilt to get what they want. I watched the typing indicator appear and disappear several times, but no response ever came. That's when everything became crystal clear. They had planned this all along. They had made arrangements without consulting me, deciding my role as the babysitter without even asking. While I worked late nights and sacrificed my time to care for their kids, they were busy booking resorts and planning activities. And now that I wasn't following their script, they were pulling out every trick in the book: guilt, threats, emotional blackmail, to force me back into the role they had created for me. Something changes when you finally see through the fog of manipulation. I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I opened my laptop, my hands steady, and started searching. In less than an hour, I had booked a beachfront hotel in Florida. This time, I was going to do something for myself. No more imposed sacrifices. No more accepting a role I never chose. For the first time, I had decided to take control of my life. It wasn't anything fancy, but it had a balcony overlooking the ocean and was within walking distance of everything I might need. I even splurged on a first-class plane ticket. After all, I had plenty of money since I wouldn't be spending it on a ski vacation. The next few days at work were surprisingly peaceful. My family had stopped calling and texting. They probably thought I was at home, preparing everything for a week of babysitting, maybe buying extra snacks or planning activities to keep the kids entertained. The thought made me smile as I packed my beach clothes and my new swimsuit. A tropical getaway in the middle of winter? My colleague Janet asked when she saw me checking the Florida weather forecast. Sometimes you need to do something unexpected, I replied, surprised at how good it felt to say those words out loud. On the morning of my flight, I took one last look around my apartment. I had cleaned everything meticulously, as I always did. The empty fridge, the securely locked windows, everything in perfect order. Just like always, except this time, I wouldn't be there to answer desperate calls asking me to babysit. As the plane took off, I turned off my phone and tucked it into my bag. No social media, no emails, no family drama, just me, the beach, and a whole week of freedom. The Florida air greeted me like a warm embrace when I stepped out of the airport. The palm trees swayed in the breeze, and I could already smell the salty ocean air from where I stood. My hotel room was even better than the pictures. The balcony offered a perfect view of the endless blue horizon, and I could hear the waves crashing against the shore. That first afternoon, I walked barefoot on the beach, letting the warm sand squeeze between my toes. When was the last time I did something like this? When was the last time I did anything just for myself? I swam in the hotel pool, read a book without interruptions, and had dinner at a quiet restaurant by the beach where no one needed me to cut their food or clean up spills. I watched the sunset from my balcony, sipping a glass of wine, without a single thought about bedtime routines or morning schedules. On my last morning in Florida, I savored the final moments of peace. I knew I'd eventually have to turn my phone back on and face whatever chaos I'd left behind, but I wasn't prepared for what I found. When my phone finally powered up, it began vibrating nonstop. Messages, voicemails, missed calls, hundreds of them. The timestamps showed they had started exactly a week ago early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I started scrolling through the messages. The first ones were from Sarah. "Where are you? We're outside your house." Then from Emma. "Ashley, open the door. The kids are getting restless." Michael. "Hey, we brought Tom and Anna as planned. Are you home?" Rachel. "Ashley, what's going on?" "Pete is asking for his aunt." As I read through the messages, I could picture the scene perfectly. My sisters and cousins standing outside my empty house with 5 confused kids, their suitcases packed for the resort, their carefully laid plans crumbling around them. The tone of the messages quickly shifted from confusion to panic. "Ashley, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." Then came the anger. Sarah's messages turned nasty. "You selfish witch. How could you do this to us?" Emma wasn't any kinder. "I can't believe you're this immature. You ruined Mom's birthday." Even my Aunt Susan, always so composed, wrote, "Ungrateful brat. You've ruined everything. These kids were counting on you." My mom's messages started later that day. "I'm so disappointed in you, Ashley. I never thought you'd be this selfish. After everything we've done for you." My dad, who rarely texted, sent just one message. "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were even worse. I could hear the anger, disappointment, and accusations in their voices. Even extended family members I hadn't spoken to in months had joined in, all condemning my behavior. When I finally put my phone down, I felt a mix of relief and resignation. I had broken all their expectations, but for the first time in years, I had chosen myself. From the balcony, I looked out at the horizon one last time. There was plenty of chaos waiting for me at home, but during that week, I had given myself something invaluable: freedom. And even if they didn't understand it, I knew I would never regret that small act of rebellion. You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children, you've ruined everything. I sat there in the peaceful quiet of my hotel room, reading message after message, learning exactly what my family thought of me now that I'd stopped being their convenient solution. The words they used, the names they called me, the assumptions they made about my character. It felt like meeting a completely different family, one that had been hiding behind fake smiles and casual requests for favors. Without responding to any of the messages, I packed my bag and headed to the airport. It was time to go home, but I wasn't the same Ashley who had left a week ago. That Ashley might have apologized, might have felt guilty, might have tried to fix everything for everyone. But that Ashley no longer existed, and I had just finished unpacking my beach clothes when I heard loud, aggressive knocking at my front door. Before I could even get to it, I heard someone turning a key in the lock, the emergency key I had given my mom years ago, just in case. They burst in like a furious storm, with my mom leading the charge, Emma and Sarah flanking her on either side, all of them red-faced and wide-eyed with anger. The peace I had cultivated in Florida vanished in an instant.
"Do you have any idea what you've done?" Sarah screamed, stepping forward. "You ruined everything! Everything!"
I stood my ground, watching them unleash their fury in my living room. The same living room where I had babysat their kids countless times, where I had canceled my own plans to accommodate their emergencies, where I had always been the reliable one. Mike and John refused to stay with the kids, Emma spat out, referring to their husbands. Suddenly, they both had important work to take care of, so Sarah had to stay home with all 5 kids while we went to the resort. She missed Mom's birthday because of you. The entire trip was ruined, Mom added, her voice rising. Nobody could enjoy themselves. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us, how you let everyone down. Your father couldn't even ski properly. He was so upset. They continued their tirade, talking over each other, each trying to outdo the other in expressing their disappointment and anger. The more they talked, the more absurd it all seemed, until something inside me broke. But not in the way they expected. I started laughing. The sound of my laughter cut through their accusations like a knife. They froze mid-sentence, staring at me as if I had lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her face flushing even darker. "What could possibly be funny about this situation?" I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you honestly not realize how absurd you all sound right now?"
"Ridiculous?" Emma sputtered. "What's ridiculous about—"
"You secretly planned this entire trip," I interrupted, my laughter fading but my voice steady. "You decided, without asking me, that I would stay behind and watch your kids. You took my money, told me to take time off work, and then just assumed I'd go along with your plans. And now that everything fell apart because of your assumptions, you're here calling me the villain? But you've always helped before," Mom said, her voice smaller now, tinged with confusion. "You've never said no." "And that's exactly the problem," I said firmly. "Because I've always helped, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life." "That's not true," Sarah protested, though her voice lacked conviction. "Really?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you just assume I'd be happy to stay behind with 5 kids while you all celebrated?"
I studied their faces, hoping to see some recognition, some understanding of how they had treated me. Instead, I watched as their expressions hardened.
"I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of this," Emma said finally, crossing her arms. "We're family. Families help each other."
"No," I replied calmly, but with resolve. "Families respect each other, and what you did wasn't respect. It was abuse, and I won't tolerate it anymore."
I stood there, unwavering, as they exchanged uncomfortable glances. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty for setting boundaries. And that sense of freedom was far more powerful than any accusation they could throw at me. "You're being selfish," my mom said coldly. "You've ruined my birthday, hurt your sisters, and disappointed the kids. This is not how I raised you."
I felt the last thread of hope snap. "No, Mom, the selfish ones are you. This whole situation is your fault, not mine." My mom straightened up, her expression turning as cold and stony as ever when things didn't go her way.
If that's how you feel, then maybe I no longer have a daughter named Ashley.
I took a deep breath, looked her in the eye, and replied quietly, "If that's what you want, Mom, then so be it." It's been 6 weeks since that final confrontation in my living room. 6 weeks of heavy silence, broken only by the occasional notification of my family's thinly veiled posts on social media.
Some people only think about themselves, Mom wrote last week, her post quickly followed by a flood of sympathetic comments from relatives and friends who only know her side of the story.
Family should always come first, Sarah posted yesterday, alongside a photo of her smiling daughter. So blessed to have people in my life who truly understand what that means. Emma, of course, had her share to say. Her latest post was a long paragraph about toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She didn't tag me, of course, but everyone knew she was talking about me. A few months ago, these posts would have crushed me. I would have spent hours crafting responses in my head, losing sleep over their words, wondering if maybe they were right. But now I just scroll past them, sometimes even smiling at how predictable they've become. My routine has changed. Instead of spending weekends on standby for emergency babysitting calls, I joined a local book club. The first meeting felt strange. Sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, knowing my phone wouldn't ring with a desperate plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I booked another trip, this time to Europe in the spring. I didn't have to check anyone's schedule or ensure it didn't conflict with someone else's plans. I just saw a good deal and took it. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about my nieces and nephews. I miss them, but not the way they used to be weaponized against me. I hope that one day when they're older, they'll understand. Maybe they'll even recognize the same patterns in their own lives and choose differently. I still have the emergency key Mom used that last day. I've thought about mailing it back, but something always stops me. Maybe a small part of me hopes that one day they'll understand, that they'll realize how unfair their actions and expectations were, how they took advantage of my love for them, that they'll see family isn't about sacrificing yourself to meet everyone else's needs. But I'm not waiting for that day anymore. I'm putting myself first, and it feels good. Yesterday, I deleted the family group chat from my phone. I didn't make an announcement or try to explain myself. I just quietly removed one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some might call this selfish. My family certainly does. But I've learned there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is step away from people who can't see your worth beyond what you do for them. And now that I've done it, I'm finally starting to breathe again.